Welcome, everybody, to the post-game show. The Knicks' first preseason game of the year. Jalen Brunson, his preseason debut, rock solid. 7-9, 16 points, only played 20 minutes. Mitchell Robinson got the new contract in transition, looking good. And Obi Toppin doing what he does best, making an impact in transition. Had 8 points. All good tonight for the Knicks as they blow out Detroit 117-96. First post game of the year. Great to have you with us from our Delta MSG studios. Bill Pito, Alan Hahn, Wally Zerbiak. Good to see you guys back together again. 10th year.
10th year, baby.
10.
Let's go. Big one.
That's right.
You know, that's my significant number.
Not a bad way to start. I mean, if you're Tom Thibodeau, you had to be happy with, I think, everything that you saw.
Well, yeah, I like the spirit the Knicks played with. They looked engaged. They looked like aggressive, and it looked like they're heeding everything that they're learning in training camp. They came out and blew the doors off the Detroit Pistons. Detroit Pistons did not look good. I mean, they have some work to do, and the Knicks made them turn the ball over a lot. They made them uncomfortable on the offensive end of the floor, and those are the type of things you're looking for this Knicks team to do. Be hard to play against.
Yeah.
Be uncomfortable to play against. When you come into the Garden, you know, not just get easy buckets, shoot a high percentage from the field. We've been talking about 41% defensive field goal percentage. That's got to be the Knicks' identity when you come play them at home. Defend and make things tough.
And you heard R.J. Barrett also mention, I'm glad he did, because it's something that Jalen Brunson said when he signed. He said, I'm not a savior, but he can be a tone setter. And he was in this game early on. It wasn't necessarily just with offense, just with dribble penetration. He took charges early. He let you know, like you mentioned, the identity of this team. It starts with defense. He knows Tom Thibodeau. He's known him since he was born. This is what he wants. This is how you establish it.
You know, the one thing I think we all want to watch is how the Knicks operate on offense, whether things come easier this year with Jalen Brunson. Because as we've talked about, last year, the inefficiency with the field goal percentage, Randle from deep, only 31%. RJ had the great year, but only shot 40% because they had to work so hard to get their shots, Alan. The goal is to make things easier when they have the ball.
It helps with dribble penetration.
Right.
We've talked about all last year, getting into the paint, being able to move the defense and make things happen. That's what Jalen Brunson has been doing. That's what made him a name when he played for the Dallas Mavericks. When Luka Doncic wasn't in, he was the guy getting the offense going, doing stuff like this, Wally, right? Just get into the paint, be a threat. He can finish. And then he also loves to push the basketball. And the Knicks have runners, guys that will finish as well. But the key stat to me is the 5 assists. Now, again, only played 20 minutes, but the 5 assists. Why is that a key stat? Last year, the Knicks were last in the league in assists per game. They were not a team that thrived on ball movement. He is going to change that.
No, he's an organizer. He's won at every single level. He was dominant in college. Then he goes on to play with the Dallas Mavericks and just defy all the odds. People didn't think he was going to become as good as he's become as an NBA player because of his size. And he's just proved everyone wrong, and he continues to do it. And what I love about him as a point guard, and having been a scorer and played with different type point guards, he doesn't hold the ball. He headman passes the ball. He gets the ball out of his hands. He gets the ball into other guys' hands where they can make plays also, and they can make things happen. He sees when a guy has an advantage because the Knicks have Barrett, Randle, and Fournier who like the ball in their hands. They can also create. So I love the way I saw Brunson moving that ball around and allowing other guys to also create some offense. He doesn't have to be the primary ball handler. He'll share it to his other teammates.
I love how Tom Thibodeau says about Brunson, he doesn't look the part. He is the part.
The best way to put it.
True.
Because, again, the size and everything else, and as Wally said, coming out of college, he was a winner. He's been a winner at every level. But you just look at certain players like, I don't know, is he big enough? Is he long enough to play in the NBA? But in the end, what you see is the results. And really, in the NBA, the results are all that matters.
All right, so Brunson had the 16. RJ tonight, last year, remember, averaged exactly 20. That was his goal. Didn't shoot as well as he would have liked, but he got to 20 per game. Had 21 tonight. More efficient. Well, yes, it's only the first preseason game, but he went 8 of 14 from the floor.
I think guys are going to be more efficient because of Jalen Brunson. You're not going to have to take, you alluded to it, it's tough to score when you got a set defense and you're going one-on-one and you have to create your own shot. I thought RJ got a lot of easy baskets in transition. He got a lot of plays where he had an advantage. He could beat his man, and that's what good teams do. You don't just settle for one-on-one basketball all the time. You get good catch-and-shoot looks because the defense is scrambling and they're in rotations and they're broken down. You play defense, you create turnovers, and that leads to easy baskets in transition. That helps your shooting percentage. his three-point shot looked outstanding. I mean, of all the guys, Brunson and RJ are the two guys that they look locked in from deep and outside. And that's one thing the Knicks are going to need. They're going to need three-point shooting out of that starting unit to go along with Fournier, and it's a good sign the way they shot the ball.
3 of 5 from downtown.
Yep.
That's the area, of course, for him. You don't have to shoot a high volume, but be effective when you have the open look. We saw a couple there, that the open look. He's been working on that. He also mentioned working on his free throws. Remember last year, free throws for him was a bit of an issue, and he made it clear, like, I'm not leaving change. I'm not leaving any money on the table.
He has to be above 80.
Money.
If he should not be below 80%.
Right.
What's the goal for him in terms of shooting percentage?
Scorers should be shooting over 80.
Last year. Where's shooting?
45 minimum.
Okay. All right.
Especially with all the in the paint kind of stuff he's going to be doing.
He can get to the basket. He can finish
guy.
around the basket.
Yeah.
Get that shooting percentage for a big, powerful guard that gets his share of layups because he can overpower defenders. He's got to get that shooting percentage up above 45.
How much is the contract now that that's out of the way? You know how it is, like when you come off your rookie deal, your last year your rookie deal, you know, it's in the back of your mind, like I'm playing for something. He's got that. He's here. He wasn't traded. He's going to be a Knick. He's going to stay a Knick. It's where he wanted to be. How much does that now just allow him to just exhale and just think about only playing basketball?
It's a huge relief. Now, it goes different with different guys. Different guys have different motors. You can tell R.J. Barrett loves the game of basketball. So he wants to prove that he's worth that contract. Some guys, they get the contract, and then they just mail it in. So I don't think he's that type of player at all. I think now that he got the contract, he's more relaxed. He's going to play more confident, and he's going to show I'm worth exactly what I got.
Mid-season form already.
Always.
Of course.
Good first block, boys.
It only took us 10 years to get this good.
Speak for yourself.